Good afternoon and welcome to the December 11th, 2018 last DSS board meeting of this calendar year. I'd like to call the meeting to order and observe a moment of silent prayer or silent meditation. Amen. Any public comments? No one has signed up in advance. Is there a motion to adopt? First, is there any need to revise today's agenda? Then is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes from the November meeting as presented in our packet. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is to adopt the minutes of the November meeting, which were also included in our agenda packet. Did anyone need any changes to the minutes? Is there a motion to then adopt them as presented in our packet?
So moved.
Is there a second?
And I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes from the November meeting as presented. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is recognition of Miss Joyce Jones. Miss Joyce, if you will come forward.
It's Joyce time.
So I just want to say congratulations on your retirement. Thank you for your years of friendship to our agency. And now we can put you on a board, so watch out. That's what happens when you retire from
Don't go
the
away.
county. You know, think you're going to retire. But you have always been a true partner with DSS and all of our staff, all of our consumers, and we will miss that. But we hope you are not going too far away. I see the new you in the audience, so you look out, we're coming. And anything you want to add?
Yeah, Joyce and I believe Margaret Dixon had a vision. And from that vision, here we are. 18 years later? So there has been such a huge contribution to the folks of this community and to the folks that we jointly serve. And on behalf of the agency, we want to present a little token to remind you of us and to say that we do appreciate all that you have done for the folks that you serve in this community and for our folks. Thank you.
So much. Oh, I just want to say thank you. It was enough for you all to just be partners with us and for Ms. Elliott to take me out to lunch. That was great. I did not expect this. But I just want to say that you all have been a great partner with us from the very beginning. I remember Mr. Garrison gave us the hardest participant that he had on the rolls to make sure that we really could do something, and we were able to do something with that. Yes, we did. But I just want to say thank you, and your department has been superb, and we look forward to the transition with Mr. Rob Lee. He's already begun meeting with staff, and we look for even greater things to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Next item on our agenda are the items for consent.
And I need to make a correction.
Okay.
Okay, before you do the items for consent, do need to make a correction. The the Victims of Crime Act, it says no county funds. There will be a $40,000 approximate match. It can be in-kind match. We do believe that we will have enough in-kind to make that work if we receive the grant. It did it did go before the county commissioners last night for their only meeting in December, and they did approve applying for the grant.
Okay, so in the items for consent, we have a LEAP budget amendment, we have Casey Foundation budget amendment, and where staff has put together two grant proposals, one with the Federal Justice for Families and the other Victims of Crime Act. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I will make that motion.
A second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next part of our agenda is items for discussion. We have another grant proposal, and I think, Kevin, you're going to tell us about that? Or Kevin and Ms. Elliott
Kevin's gonna
together?
do it.
Were you referring to the two grants that we just voted on? Just wanted to give you a bit of background on the two grants that you just voted on. Pass that down. These are both due in January, so we're already working very hard on them. The larger of the two is the Federal Justice for Families grant from the Department of Justice. Our plans for that are to use it to fund training in a practice modality called Signs of Safety. It's been around now for about 25 years. You may have heard of it. It was founded in Australia in the 1990s and has been adopted a number of places. The nearest place to here where it has been fully adopted is Wilson County. And we hope to use it to replicate Wilson County's success in three goals. The first is to improve the quality of our service. And as you can see on the second page of that handout, Wilson has documented some very strong quality metrics compared not just to us, but to the state on average. The second goal is to reduce the number of children we have in foster care, which, as I'm sure you know, has grown very, very rapidly. A big part of Signs of Safety allows it to reduce the number of children in foster care by strongly emphasizing safety plans for the child's home. This also has the effect of reducing the potential trauma that children experience when they are taken out of the home and placed in foster care. Thirdly, we hope to improve our staff retention. As you may know, it is very, very difficult for us to get and keep well-qualified staff. And also, as I'm sure you know, social work is both an art and a science, but it is a practical art and science. You can learn it in school, but you can only learn to do it really, really well through years of practice. Right now, among the 61 people in our Child Welfare Division, most have been there for fewer than 4 years. Relatively new bunch. A quarter have been there for less than 1 year. So we are really focused on trying to recruit well and retain well. Signs of Safety has proven itself to be a significant program that fosters staff morale because it is effective. Social workers don't like to do paperwork. They like to be with families, and above all, they like to see, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor, above all, they like to see that they're having a positive effect on the families. That's what is attractive to us about Signs of Safety. The grant will total about $550,000. It's a fairly big grant. It's an expensive program. The second grant was the Victims of Crime Act, much smaller. It's about $175,000. We hope to use that grant along with a separate grant through the AmeriCorps program, which we will file in March, to work with ECU on developing an expanded internship program, which will help us introduce more ECU social work students to the satisfaction of working with kids who have big, big problems. It will help us recruit, and it will also help ECU in its mission of training up good social workers, and we will also be able to shift some of the burden of our current caseload to these interns, all of whom will be qualified to spend time with the kids and to actually do social work, because we will not just be bringing in more social workers, we will also be bringing in MSW-trained supervisory staff. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Any questions?
How are you making one that's due now and one that's due in the spring work together?
They are both due to be decided in late summer,
Oh, okay.
possibly
So
September.
even though they have different due dates,
Yeah.
the timing on answers is about the same?
It's not too far off. The VOCA grant is kind of a two-stage approval process. First, they let you know whether they're going to approve you or not, and then they let you know what changes you have to make in your plan for them to actually write you a check. So they're a little bit more stretched out.
And the funding period, how long is it, the grant period for both of these grants?
For both the VOCA and the AmeriCorps grant, it is a 3-year period. So they're going to stretch out and give us enough time to really implement. Similarly, for the Justice for Families Act, that's a 3-year grant. Certainly, with the VOCA and AmeriCorps grants, if they are successful and if we get them, we would certainly want to extend that. AmeriCorps is not too difficult to extend. VOCA is a little bit harder, but you can regularly get an extension. So we hope to use this as our foot in the door to get some more dollars down the road.
Good.
So the next time we see you, you'll be coming back with good news, right?
I'm hoping to come back with a briefcase full of cash.
That works.
Now, and you have met with Dr. Bunch and the university, so did you have any feedback or any thoughts that y'all want to share with this group?
Dr. Bunch?
Did I put you on the spot?
Well, yes. But there was a meeting, was it last week, with
I think
the
so.
Office of Field Education, and we talked about the excitement around submitting the grant and pretty much helping our students get some real-life training. And we also talked about some of the challenges that we were able to kind of think through and kind of come up with some strategies to overcome that. But we are very excited about the opportunity to kind of enhance the child welfare workforce. Kind of falls in line with what the division is trying to do now.
Wonderful. We share your excitement. We appreciate working with you. I always like to throw a little bit of wet blankets on excitement because it's never really exciting until the check clears. So, thank you very much.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the next item is some discussion about the board retreat and planning for that event in January.
January the 8th. So we are open to hearing what you as a board would like to have on the agenda for that particular meeting.
So Jan and I met last week with Jim to sort of brainstorm and review this agenda. And we thought, since we have some newness on the board since the last time we had this at our retreat, maybe it would make sense for the division heads to come and sort of talk about, you know, I'm Margaret Dixon and I do, or I am Brian Averett and I do, so that we refresh, because we've reorganized the whole agency since Jan got here. And I think we could all use a refresher. We also talked about reviewing the status of the strategic plan and possibly making some headway with any modifications that may need to be done. We talked about possibly asking the county attorney to come and just review the relationship between the DSS board and the county, and, you know, what our roles can and can't be and that sort of thing. But, you know, those were just ideas we had. If you guys think, no, we don't need that, or, oh, I wish we could add one more thing, now's our time, because that'll help Jan with making sure she's got the right people on the bus with us.
I think that's a great idea. And I don't think we need to add anything to the agenda. Sometimes we put too much on the agenda and you feel rushed.
And then you don't
And you
get to
don't really
ask your
have the,
questions.
the opportunity to ask questions and seek clarity.
I know as a new board member, I found it really helpful when the county attorney came and talked about roles and responsibility of the PSS board, gave us opportunity to ask questions. That was time very well spent.
And then I think because it is our regular meeting, we would have a small agenda probably with some consent items, maybe some update on transformation or the MOU if there's something that you need to report, so that you don't have a, you know, a big gap if there's something you definitely need us to jump on or be aware of.
Sounds a plenty.
Just,
Does that work for
it
you?
works for me.
Do you want us to give you any more feedback, or are you good with that?
I think that's a pretty full agenda.
So we are going to meet on January 8th. Susan, where are we going to hold that meeting?
Down in the Emergency Operations Center in the basement here in
Okay.
this building,
And what time are we going to start? Because it's a different time than our normal meeting.
2 o'clock.
Okay. Just so we all know, the EOC at 2 o'clock.
Good deal.
And the easiest way to get to the EOC now is through the stair tower?
The stair tower or the elevator.
Okay.
Yeah, the main elevator, you can get down there, and then we'll have it open so you can get through.
The main elevator here or back in,
The main elevator that you probably come up on,
uh-huh.
that will get you down to
The one
the.
with the pretty wooden panels?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that will get you down there.
All right, it's now the Jan Elliott Show.
Okay, that went real fast. Okay, Medicaid transformation. There's a lot going on with Medicaid transformation, and some of you are probably more up to date on it than even I am. Couple of things. I have put at your place some information about the Healthy Opportunities pilot that will be coming down as part of the waiver. This was called the Social Determinants of Health, but we have a new name now, Healthy Opportunities. The Healthy Opportunities pilot is going to go into 2 to 4 geographic areas of the state. We're going to be testing evidence-based interventions that are designed to reduce cost, improve health by more intensely addressing housing instability, transportation insecurity, food insecurity, interpersonal violence, and toxic stress for eligible Medicaid beneficiaries. So that's a big deal. The federal government's authorized up to $650 million in state and federal Medicaid funding for the pilots over the 5-year life of the waiver. We suspect that there will be some of the grant funders, the foundations will probably be contributing additional dollars around the state in addition to what the federal and state government has put out. Primary health providers will implement the pilots in collaboration with a network of human service organizations through lead pilot entities, LPEs, a new acronym for all of us to learn. But those, the network of human services organizations will certainly include departments of social services and other community-based organizations. So as you read this, and I'm just hitting the high spots, but they will be tracking the enrollees' health outcomes and costs to determine which interventions are most cost-effective and lead to the best results. So that's probably about where I'm going to stop with this. They are planning. There will be the 4 LPEs will be selected by the department in 2019 through competitive bidding. And then they hope to roll out in 2020. And there's some good examples in here of the types of things that folks might do. So all of you have this, and certainly would encourage you to read that. The shorthand on this is that the lead pilot entities will be developing the Human Services Organization Network, convening the key pilot stakeholders, providing financial oversight, providing technical assistance, and collecting and submitting the data. There is a group working in this part of the state to try and think through the process and get involved in it and working on it. We're excited to see where that goes, and certainly would like and are hoping to be at the table in part of that. There is thought that there will probably be let's see how to say this, a metropolitan or large community would be paired with a smaller, more rural community to try and do this. And if you look at the 6 regions that the state has set out for Medicaid transformation, the region that Pitt is in, if that is the region that is selected, Pitt would certainly be one of the groups to go. So we'll just have to kind of see where that goes. The other thing that has come out is that the 8 groups have bid to be the primary health providers. And those groups are Aetna, Mara Health, Sarteris of North Carolina, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, North Carolina Healthy Blue, Carolina Complete Health, My Health, By Health Providers, which is a group of hospitals, the big hospitals around the state. Vidant is part of that group. Optima Health, which is Centera, United Healthcare, and WellCare Health Plans. From what I understand, 2 of these are going to be regional only, and the remaining 6 are going to be statewide bids. So you know there'll only be 4 statewide plans approved. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. Right now, they're certainly in the review process, and we don't really know kind of who's going to get what, but that's the group that's out there. As far as Medicaid reform, the tailored plan process, and the tailored plans are those serving people with significant behavioral health needs and the IDD population. That will begin July 21. Contracts will be regional. There will not be statewide contracts on that. The current LME MCOs will have the contract for the first 4 years, so for us that would be Trillium. And the tailored plans will provide case management, physical health care, pharmacy services, and then those personal care, home health type services. They will arrange all of those kinds of things. The final thing that I wanted to report today is that NC Cares 360, that is going to be the resource platform that connects the clinicians, the social workers, the care coordinators, the families and others, and the people in the community to the resources they need. It's going to be the integrated database of the 211 system, and there will be a care coordination platform called Unitas, which I really don't know a whole lot about. It will integrate with Epic, which is the health data systems that both the hospital and Pitt Health Departments use. And they expect to roll that out in January, February of 2019. So that's an update of some of the things that are going on in Medicaid reform or Medicaid transformation. So a lot is happening. We're all, kind of going, okay, so how does this impact us? Where are we? What do we need to be doing to get ready? And every day you learn just a little bit more. So I'll try to answer any questions anybody might have. I'm not sure I have all the answers, but I'll certainly try. Anybody got any questions about where we are with that right now? If not, the next thing would be the MOU. You want me to talk about the MOU now? I did send you all the MOU as it has been changed. So you got the full MOU in your email. I did not try to print it out for you because basically it didn't change that much. What you got in your packets here talks about the basic changes that are occurring, where they changed the language. So about the point of contact, changing the time frame. We don't actually, as I told you before, we don't actually start getting held accountable now until July. The performance measures, it talks about the minor changes that were made in the performance measures. So that's what was in your packet. So I'm, an example of one of the standards that was changed, they went from 41% to 40.5% for foster care performance measures. And that's because 40.5% is the exact federal figure that is being used. And so rounding up is what they had done, and they decided they really needed to go back to what the exact federal standard was. As you saw, they are still working on the data validation process, and I can tell you, it's a mess, still. So, the data that we have, with few exceptions, is not accurate. Every day we find new reasons that it is not accurate, so they're continuing to validate that data. And they are also continuing to move towards giving us growth measures, but right now they're still sitting with the same federal benchmark, not the growth measures where those are available. So we do know that they anticipate 17 becoming growth measures. So we will see where that goes. I can tell you that when you look at the data here for the memorandum and what they sent out, Pitt County in September met 13 of the standards. 2 were not available at the time. We were as good or better than the state in 5 additional standards. And the state did not meet, statewide, they did not meet 12 standards. So we're not that far, now we're in different places on different things, but we are not that far out of the range of everybody else when you look at the state averages. But again, the data is not particularly accurate, and it is still being addressed. There is training to be done on how to access the data. They're asking counties to validate the data. And so some of the smaller counties have actually been, because they've only got 15 cases in the denominator, so they've literally been able to pull every one of the 15 cases to see if the data was correct, and they found some really big discrepancies. For a county like our size, it would be hard to pull all 500 cases that's in the denominator to see if it's accurate or not. But, so the work is still being done. The snowstorm this week kind of messed up some of the planning, because they were supposed to be training on Monday on pulling the 10 data reports that we can now pull ourselves. So that'll be a little bit later. Every county is being assigned, and I think I said this last month based on what their conversations were, it's going to be assigned a data coordinator at the state level to work with us around a specific program area so that we can work together to try and validate the information that's there. But it's got a way to go before it is ready. But that's where we are with the MOU. So anybody got any questions about that? We will be taking the modified MOU to the commissioners next month, because does need to be re-signed by the county manager. It was technically due to be re-signed by December 17th, but we've asked for an extension because of the fact that we only had 1 meeting this month for the commissioners.
So do you have that extension and you're going to?
They'll give, that's not a problem. We still have 2 counties that have not signed the original MOU, so that should not be a problem.
Any questions, feedback? Keep on rolling, Jan.
Okay, I'm supposed to also periodically update you on what's going on with the Social Services Working Group. The Phase 2 Working Group has ended their work. They have a draft, and you have the draft in front of you, a draft report. You can certainly go out to the School of Government and read the entire report. And as I said, it's draft, it has not been finalized yet. But the draft report indicates that they plan to talk about recommendations for legislative and regulatory changes. That's what their mission was, and then crafting a vision. That was their mission. So here's some of the highlights are in that report for you. So they're talking about in conflict of interest cases that they want to amend the state law to provide a framework for management of conflict of interest cases, and that would be if there was a Child Protective Services complaint on me, another county would have to do that assessment and provide those services. So that would be the conflict of interest piece, and that can happen in a lot of our programs. So right now, we have some general framework, but interpretation, I would say, Gwen, is pretty much all over the neighborhood, right?
Yes.
So it's difficult to be straightforward with that. There's also a suggestion that we prepare comprehensive guidance and training regarding these new policies, and that DHHS should develop a statewide repository of information related to conflict management, and then support continuous monitoring and policy revisions. They're also recommended that every county designate at least one staff person to manage the conflict of interest process. Another big area for DSS is the movement of cases around counties. People are not stagnant, and Brian, I know, can attest to this in income maintenance. We have people moving all the time, and so the same rules apply for every program. I mean, if you're eligible for Medicaid in Pitt County, you're eligible for Medicaid in Beaufort County. If you're eligible for food stamps in Pitt, you're eligible in Beaufort. Why should we have to go through all these processes all over again? The guardianship situation, much different because you've got clerks of court involved, but that's another example of how they are suggesting that the laws need to be changed to allow for a clear process for guardianship cases and transferring and changing venue, similar kinds of things with adults, and that there be standard information sharing. Advance notices in guardianship cases from the clerks is in here. How we can use technology to interact with families and members of families who are not present in the county. Maybe they're in jail, or maybe they're in another state, and right now the interaction is very intermittent and difficult, and we really need to have those folks involved. So there's recommendations there. There's recommendations to the administrative office of the court around those that are incarcerated. Residency policies, a lot of discussion about how that might need to go. Public funding for guardianship. Some suggestions around the technology platforms that the judicial system is getting ready to implement, allowing us access to that. Confidentiality laws and getting those updated, there are recommendations around that. So other things, improve workforce development, study staffing, capacity, and caseloads among local social services, consistent interpretations and applications of law and policy. We say that all the time, and that is really, really hard to do. But we still want to say that we want consistent interpretations. That is a lofty goal. Increase and improve training for county staff. Share examples of those inter-county collaborations that work well. Modify reporting requirements or eliminate reporting requirements where possible. My favorite is re-examine the plan to use NC FAST for programs dedicated to child welfare and to aging and adult services.
Re-examined.
Re-examine.
What does re-examine mean?
That means we're not real happy with it, and perhaps you might want to do
Take a
something
look.
different.
I was just wondering if maybe we were.
That would be my
trying to throw it out the
interpretation.
window.
There has been some discussion. They're talking about establishing a social services reform advisory body. We have all these reform processes out there. There is the big report from Center for Families that's still being worked on and is going to the legislature, which should be informing some of this also. The next favorite thing that I'm sorry, Ms. Perkins-Williams isn't here, the legislature should not require counties to join together to create multidisciplinary multi-county departments to administer social services programs. So they did not come out with that recommendation. But there should be a study of all programs that the county administers to determine whether there should be any changes in administration that might be appropriate. I mean, there has been some discussion about state taking over, but that would be such a costly venture that I don't know if that would ever fly, but I'm wondering if that's part of their conversation. If the legislature should decide to mandate regional administration, even after getting this report, they need to develop a plan on how each county will contribute financially, completely evaluate the state's approach to enhanced regional supervision, assuming that is actually implemented. And then the state should communicate clearly the path forward. So those are the key recommendations. It's fleshed out a little bit more in the actual document I gave you, but the longer document, about 30 pages, would give you much more in-depth information. And this actually was posted today, so I haven't had a lot of time to spend much time reading it, because today was their meeting to talk about finalizing this report. So that's why it truly is a draft report at this point. So there's a lot of good stuff in here, actually. Questions, concerns?
Anything that stands out to you, Jan? Anything that,
You mean besides the excitement about reexamining NC-FAST?
in addition to that?
We go live in September. And that's the third go live date we've had. You know, I think the taking a real hard look at how we work among counties, across county lines, I think all that piece has been complex and complicated. And because we are now into, and I hate to use this word, NC-FAST, for all of our economic services programs, why? I mean, you just change the county who owns it. And I know for the county's perspective, there's the fear that, well, if they determined eligibility wrong, am I going to be stuck
Who
with
owns
the
it?
cost? But why do people have to, in food stamps especially, Medicaid's more seamless, but in food stamps, you have to almost stop and start over again in every county you move to. Brian, thoughts? I know I keep calling you on you here, but with food stamps, I'm correct. You pretty much have to start all over in every county when you move. It's not that you just automatically get transferred like you do with Medicaid. And part of that has to do with, we do give you some certain deductions based on where you're living, based on your housing costs and those kinds of
So
things.
that would change.
So that might change as you move, but you could go ahead and do the transfer and then adjust as needed, I would think, within 30 days or something. So it would seem like that's almost a
You have all of the
no-brainer.
data, you just have to recalculate.
Right.
It would seem.
That does make sense.
So I think that's a piece that I was really pleased to see them giving us some thoughts about how we move people. I mean, we have a lot of discussion with our sister counties around guardianships and who's going to take the guardianship case and who's going to take the conflict of interest case and who's going to manage these things. And I gave you 3 last week, and you've given me a hard. I mean, so, and it's not that anybody's being ugly about it. It's that resources and all those kinds of things come into play in crossing county lines with courts involvement. And I mean, so having some of that spelled out and looked at, I think is going to be very helpful.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes next.
We'll wait for your next report.
Okay. So,
Application processing?
yes, application processing. We are doing wonderful. Thank you, Brian and his staff. As you can see from this lovely report that you have, we are meeting all of the standards in both Medicaid for the disabled and other Medicaid. We continue to make progress in every area. We were at 94% process time in Medicaid for the disabled and 93% for other Medicaid. We are processing other Medicaid cases in 27 days. When it could potentially take up to 45. So, you know, we're moving in the right direction. 57 days for the Medicaid for disabled, and one of the things that delays that is the disability determination piece that has to be done. But again, 57 days when it could take up to 90 means that folks are able to work quickly in most of the cases and move this along. So, really proud of our staff and what they're doing there, and, you know, thank them every day for the good work that they're doing on that. Agency personnel, the report you have in front of you says we have 21 vacant positions. Unless something's happened in the last 24 hours, we actually only have 19 vacant positions. And we're down to only 2 positions, I'm sorry, let me get that. Yeah, 2 positions that are frozen. So we're making great progress there, and Susan got to post one today, so we're moving along. We have a lot of folks, as you can see, coming to work. So we're excited about the progress we're making. Services is part of the group that's getting a lot of folks. I will say we're doing a lot of agency shifting, people moving from one part of the agency to another part of the agency, which is causing some, rolling along of additional vacancies, but
But it creates redundancy when you need to borrow them back.
that is true, and it's also really good because it gives folks that ladder, that promotion ladder, so we're happy to do that. We have, I need to publicly thank the county manager for giving us the opportunity to recruit for our guardianship supervisor prior to her departure, and also allowing us to recruit as of last week for one of our crisis workers who's retiring the end of the month. So he gave us a couple of weeks headway on that one. So I really do want to thank him and for doing that. And I'm told I probably won't get to do that again anytime soon. But it's been very, very helpful. We will see what happens as we move forward with the guardianship. We just got the list of folks who applied, so we'll see where that goes. Just as a reminder, the low-income energy program has begun. We gave you a copy of the press release because it has all of the partner agencies that is posted on our website, so folks can see that it's been published in a variety of locations, but wanted you all to have that. We did get, as you saw, the additional money that is not going to impact the dollar amount that we give people, but it will allow us to serve more individuals. Also, just as a reminder, the 15th of this month is the last day to apply for the Affordable Care Act, so I want to remind folks if they do need health insurance, to do that application this week, because this is very important to folks to get health insurance. The only other thing I put at your place was the Early Childhood Strategies Roadmap. We're not going to talk about it, but this is a draft, and I thought folks have a lot of interest in this, in the agency and in the community. And there is a place on page 2, if you have any recommendations, comments, etc., for you to send that information to the state as they work on this plan. But, the headers are building and sustaining strong relationships between young children and families. Certainly, we would all support that. Promote supportive, productive, equitable early learning environments, support preparation and compensation and retention of the early child care, learning, and elementary education workers. Make early care and learning programs more accessible for our vulnerable families, and we have over 1,000 people on our waiting list now for child care. Integrate the support of children's social emotional development into early childhood services. Improve economic opportunities for all families. Well, we had Joyce here and our staff, and certainly that is part of their goal. Prioritize racial equity, cultural competence, family engagement, and child and family systems. Increase access to high-quality health care for vulnerable children. Promote healthy behaviors and facilitate data sharing. So the strategic roadmap has some really good headers in there. I haven't had time to spend a lot of time, but certainly do take a look at this, and if you have any comments, they would welcome those comments. So, I'm through.
Board member comments.
I forgot.
Oh, go back.
I forgot. Red Cross gave Pitt County Social Services a big thank you for our work in the shelters.
Congratulations.
Came and presented it at staff meeting.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
And we're thankful that you guys are willing when there's a natural disaster. So, no comments from this end? No comments from that end? Then I'll just say, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, enjoy your breaks, stay safe, stay warm, and a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
And second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by getting up.